Hey everyone, I'm Dustin Davis. Let's get into everything happening in Chicago right now. The Chicago Bears front office faces critical decisions as the season unfolds. A 4-game winning streak has shifted internal perspectives, yet fundamental roster gaps remain unaddressed. The organization's leadership must now weigh immediate competitive needs against long-term franchise planning. Defensive shortcomings persist despite recent victories, while offensive consistency remains elusive. The Bears' decision-makers stand at a crossroads where calculated roster additions could accelerate progress or mortgage future flexibility. Past hesitations and missed opportunities informed current deliberations. The franchise's path forward remains uncertain. Strategic clarity will emerge only through the choices made in the coming weeks, choices that will reveal whether this organization prioritizes short-term validation or sustained competitive advantage. Well, let's see moves that Ryan Poles can shock the entire NFL. Before we dive in, I have a quick request. If you find value in our content, please give us a like. It's a small gesture, but it really helps. Thanks for being awesome. General Manager Ryan Poles now has a second chance to acquire a pass rusher he previously pursued, and this time the cost would be significantly lower. The Chicago have strung together 4 straight victories, and sentiment within the organization has started shifting. However, pursuing major acquisitions at the trade deadline remains a move that could potentially undermine the franchise's long-term strategic framework. Nevertheless, Chicago's roster still contains obvious holes that warrant attention, with the most pressing being additional edge rushing support. The team recorded 4 quarterbacks takedowns in their Week 7 performance, though 2 of those pressures originated from blitzing defensive backs rather than traditional edge defenders. Strengthening the pass rush remains a legitimate area for improvement before the deadline arrives, and if Poles wants to revisit a player he once targeted, the current moment presents an ideal window. Interest in Matthew Judon should intensify after Week 7. Before the 2024 campaign began, Chicago actively searched for edge help to pair alongside Montez Sweat. That pursuit nearly resulted in acquiring veteran pass rusher Matthew Judon, who was then with New England. Poles ultimately evaluated the financial commitment and declined to proceed, a decision documented during HBO's Hard Knocks coverage of the organization that summer. I don't want to get the club in a position where we have a player that's here, we've given up a draft pick, and we haven't had a resolution on a contract, the general manager stated on the program. New England eventually moved Judon to Atlanta in exchange for a third-round selection, and the contractual resolution Poles feared never materialized, sending Judon into free agency. By August 2025, he had joined Miami. Judon participated in Miami's first 6 contests as a rotational edge defender. Come Week 7, however, he was listed as a healthy inactive. Such designations typically signal organizational willingness to part with a player during this portion of the calendar, particularly for struggling franchises like the Dolphins. The probable compensation for Judon would involve a 6th or 7th round pick swap, per CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones. That represents a price point Poles might now accept without concern for surrendering excessive value for a single-season rental pass rusher. The position has been that Chicago would not make trades until the coaching staff evaluated second-year player Austin Booker, who continues his return from injured reserve. Booker's 21-day practice window opened on October 7th, yet he has been held out of the previous 2 contests since resuming practice activities. If Booker fails to earn roster activation within that 21-day period, he reverts to injured reserve through the remainder of the season. With the trade deadline not arriving until November 4th, the Bears would have adequate time to gain position clarity. Currently, Judon appears to represent a minimal risk maneuver for Poles, offering the possibility of recapturing the form that produced 15.5 sacks in 2022. The situation merits continued monitoring.
Meanwhile, injuries in the secondary have forced the organization to explore multiple options before the deadline arrives. Chicago secured its 4th consecutive victory in Week 7, defeating New Orleans 26-14. The defense compensated for offensive struggles, limiting the Saints to 253 total yards while generating 4 sacks and 4 turnovers. The Bears have operated virtually all season without top cornerback Jalen Johnson, who underwent core muscle surgery that cast doubt on any return this year. The secondary depth took another hit Sunday when Tyrique Stevenson sustained a shoulder injury and Nahshon Wright appeared to absorb a knee to the midsection from teammate Kevin Byard. Wright managed to return to action, but the organization deemed Stevenson doubtful for re-entry, and he remained sidelined. Head coach Ben Johnson informed reporters after the game that Monday would provide clearer assessment of Stevenson's condition. Stevenson had demonstrated marked improvement in recent weeks, though he encountered difficulties before sustaining his injury Sunday. Ryan Poles has likely monitored the cornerback trade market already, but that passive observation may need to escalate into active pursuit as Stevenson faces extended absences. Considering these circumstances, here are cornerback options Chicago should evaluate before the November 4th deadline. Michael Carter II, New York Jets. Carter endured an injury-riddled 2024 with the Jets, and his struggles preceded missing a third straight game due to concussion protocol Sunday. Multiple reporters have prominently cited him as a trade candidate, and New York's new leadership may simply attempt to recoup whatever value remains available. Throughout his career, Carter has functioned almost exclusively in the slot, which seemingly conflicts with the Bears' needs given Kyler Gordon's primary role there. Gordon can operate effectively on the perimeter as well, and if Carter achieves health, an enormous conditional considering the past 2 seasons, he delivered comprehensive production as New York's primary slot defender. The complication involves a 3-year, $30.75 million contract the Jets awarded Carter, extending through 2027. The commitment becomes more manageable with nearly half his 2026 base salary converting to fully guaranteed status on March 18th, and perhaps New York would absorb some financial obligation to facilitate a move. Chicago could attach conditions, games played, snap counts this season, to any draft capital exchanged, potentially acquiring Carter at rock-bottom valuation. Taylor Britt, Cincinnati Bengals. Taylor Britt started 38 of 39 games across his initial 3 Cincinnati seasons. This year, however, he has started just 1 of 5 appearances, and after struggling in Week 6, he became a healthy scratch in Week 7. The short week may have influenced that benching, but it simultaneously pushes him toward trade availability. Defensive coordinator Al Golden appears to maintain limited patience with underperforming players, a curious stance given his unit's overall quality. Taylor Britt produced effectively in each of the prior 2 seasons, accumulating 7 interceptions and 27 pass deflections, and 5 games of struggle should not erase that track record for a new coordinator. Taylor Britt attempted measured language after his healthy scratch, but the demeanor he presented to reporters reveals frustration he cannot entirely conceal. He would not be the first Bengals player expressing dissatisfaction with his circumstances recently, nor likely the last. Taylor Britt has flashed the traits that made him a second-round selection in 2022, and his trade value may have reached its nadir. The Bears should prepare an offer. Roger McCreary, Tennessee Titans. The Titans clearly positioned themselves as deadline sellers after falling to 1-7 with Sunday's loss to New England. Before that defeat, The Athletic's Diana Russini reported Tennessee is open for business on everyone except quarterback Cam Ward and defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. McCreary, playing out his rookie contract's final year, has been readily identified as someone the Titans would relinquish. Entering Sunday, his season metrics were underwhelming, allowing an 82.6 completion rate with a 107.8 passer rating. Conversely, his overall Pro Football Focus grade ranked among the top 25 cornerbacks, with his coverage grade similarly positioned entering Week 7. Should Chicago execute any trades, they will likely prioritize players offering more than single-season rentals. McCreary fits that description, and his potential performance following a scenery change warrants consideration. Rasul Douglas, Miami Dolphins. Perhaps due to limited alternatives following a disappointing 2024 campaign, Douglas finally validated rumors connecting him to Miami by signing there this season. His raw statistics entering Week 7 were not broadly impressive, 102.9 passer rating, but Pro Football Focus ranked them as their 7th best cornerback heading into the week. That overall grade ranking will decline entering Week 8, with the 49.3 overall PFF grade from Sunday's game against Cleveland pending potential further review. Nevertheless, his body of work has generated sufficient interest in the trade market. Douglas would suit any team requiring a veteran cornerback, and the 1-7 Dolphins should position him near the top of players they are willing to move. The prorated portion of his $1.255 million base salary presents no burden for an acquiring team, and the Bears should now join the list of potential suitors. Alontae Taylor, New Orleans Saints. Taylor represents the clear top option here. Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen undoubtedly influenced New Orleans drafting him in the second round of the 2022 draft, as Allen transitioned from defensive coordinator to head coach. Taylor then posted 75 or more tackles in both 2023 and 2024, and this season he has taken notable strides forward as a coverage cornerback. Taylor, as others have noted recently, presumably would require minimal acclimation time to Allen's defensive scheme. He can function on the perimeter or in the slot, and he can represent more than a rental in his contract's final year. If Allen will endorse his former player as a system fit, POLES could execute a swift transaction here.
On the offensive side of the ball, a different kind of roster concern has emerged that could reshape the backfield rotation entirely. Following an impressive victory over Saints, the Chicago Bears need to examine their playoff prospects. Despite DeAndre Swift's strong performance, the team should pursue a running back addition, and Tony Pollard represents an ideal fit. With a 4-2 record, circumstances are improving for Chicago. The defense has struggled without Jalen Johnson, but offensive execution is beginning to coalesce. Before the season, many expressed disappointment that the Bears did not draft, sign, or trade for a new running back. Swift proved extremely disappointing in 2024 with merely 3.8 yards per carry. Credit where appropriate, Swift has exceeded most expectations with a 4.2 yards per carry mark. The problem remains that this still constitutes mediocre production. Many will recall the 108-yard performance in Week 6, but beyond that, Swift has not surpassed 70 rushing yards in any game. The concept centers on Pollard becoming the team's short yardage option immediately, since Kyle Monangahi has not provided Chicago much with 3.7 yards per carry. This approach would prevent Swift from handling every single touch, ideally allowing him to generate more explosive plays. Beyond Swift, no one else truly provides the Bears much on passing downs. Pollard does not either, but by removing some between the tackles carries, Swift could be deployed primarily as a receiver, which constitutes his strength. The Tennessee Titans entered the year hoping to generate momentum and demonstrate turnaround signs. Firing Brian Callahan already should communicate everything necessary about the Titans' season trajectory. Based on current evidence, the Titans may rank among the NFL's worst teams once again. With a 1-5 record, a top 5 draft selection seems probable for Tennessee. Pollard is 28 years old, he is not delivering strong production for the Titans, and he becomes a free agent in 2027. Considering all these factors, the Bears surrendering their 2027 fifth-round pick would benefit both organizations. Other franchises that could utilize Pollard include the Kansas City Chiefs or Pittsburgh Steelers. Kansas City would likely seek an Alvin Kamara or Breece Hall caliber player. Pittsburgh should absolutely pursue a running back, as Jaylen Warren does not flourish as a featured option. Pollard would not be the primary choice for most teams, but with Tyjae Spears in the backfield and Tennessee far from contention, accepting available compensation makes sense for them. Through 2025, Pollard has been less efficient than Swift with 3.9 yards per carry. The distinction is that the Bears' offensive line has performed considerably better than the Titans. According to PFF, the Bears possess the 16th best offensive line in the NFL currently. The Titans have the 6th worst in the NFL. This does not suggest Pollard would become an elite back with superior blocking, but he would likely demonstrate slightly better ground production than Swift. As previously mentioned, Pollard is scheduled to become a free agent in 2027. Currently, Pollard operates under a 3-year, $21,750,000 agreement. Worth noting is that Tennessee currently has a potential exit in 2026. At this juncture, the Tennessee Titans would be far better served acquiring another draft selection rather than retaining Tony Pollard. The optimal trade destination would be the Chicago Bears. Is Tony Pollard the answer to the Bears' running back situation, or would you rather see them ride with DeAndre Swift for the rest of the season? Would splitting carries between Swift and Pollard actually improve the offense, or is it just adding another piece to an already crowded backfield? Some fans believe the Bears should focus on other positions entirely. Where do you stand? Share your opinion in the comments and tell us whether you'd make this trade or look elsewhere for offensive reinforcements. Before you leave, drop a like and subscribe. Be part of our fan base and let's make Bears even stronger. Until the next video.